Hi, you're watching my channel, Clodbuster. What's up, guys? Getting some Clodbuster work done. Sorry about the messy bench. I got a lot of projects going on. I always say the most efficient way to finish a project is by starting a bunch at the same time. So as you can see, I got a bunch of projects going on. Anyway, so today I'm working on the Clodbuster steering. Okay, so a little while ago I did a video on these axles where I put the aluminum axle tubes, CVDs from RC 4-wheel drive. I'm going brushless motors. So I was building these axles for a guy as a race clod. I was going to build this whole clod for a guy. Nothing I was making money off of. I was just doing it for fun because I enjoy building these. But the guy changed his mind. He changed what direction he wants to go. So I ended up selling him an original Chevy Edition 87 clod for, I don't know, like $200 or something like that. He didn't really want to invest the $1,000 plus it takes to build a race clod. And again, that's nothing I was making money, no profit whatsoever. I was just doing it for the fun of building a cool clod for a guy. So I sold him that stock clod. Now I got these axles and these brushless motors left over, and he originally gave me money for the motors and the parts, and I just worked that out in the price of the original clod. So now I got these parts left over, so I figured I'd build it for myself. So now it's time for the steering system. When I was going to build the steering form, was what he wanted was like the axle mounted servo where it puts it vertical right here, which I've never been a big fan of. And the steering system that I kind of forgot about, that I was reminded of when I got this Clodzilla 2, was this bad boy right here. That was ESP. That was their steering kit. So if you look close, you can see he uses a stock style Clodbuster servo saver, the belt crank assembly, or in this case it's got the ESP aluminum one, and it puts the servo saver on the servo, which is mounted right here. So I always like that setup. One cool feature about that, you can run a stock bumper. And the neat thing about that is if you make your clod look just right, you can build a race clod, have an aftermarket steering, and put a factory bumper on it so it looks kind of like a sleeper. And when I say sleeper, I mean like something that's built but looks stock. Like if you go to like a drag race, and when I say drag race, I mean like two cars lining up side by side and racing in a straight line, not the other kind of drag race. So if one car in that drag race looks stock but it's really built, that would be called a sleeper because it's fast but doesn't look like it. So that's pretty cool to build a clod that way. So that's what I think I'm going to do. So I took the rear steering setup apart. Check this out. That's a clear servo. This was awesome back in the day. Like when I say back in the day, I mean the early 90s when the ESP Clodzilla 2 was popular. So that's the servo. And what it did, it just glued to this bracket. So I'm going to go to my shop. I'm going to remake this bracket. It's simple. It's got two holes right here. And it just bolts right there like that. So it's real simple. The only thing I never liked was that this glued right here like that. I think it could be much better. I mean, I get why they did it. It's a lot more simple to make it like this than it would be to have tabs coming out. Because really, like this, all you gotta do is cut a piece of aluminum angle. This is 1/8 inch thick, 1.5 inches. So it's 1.5 inches from here to here. So instead, what I'm gonna do is I bought some 1.5 inch aluminum, and I'm going to make this piece exactly, but I'm going to have a little tab sticking out so I could bolt some servo mounts. So instead of gluing it on, it bolts on like a normal servo does, being much better. Okay, so the first thing I had to do was measure the overall footprint of the servo with the mounting flange. So it's just under 2 3/8, and I use a fractional system. Never been a big fan of the metric system. And then I made a mark on the original bracket where that would sit. So now I'll know where to leave a tab to mount the servo post. And in my Clodbuster parts pile, I was able to find these RPM servo mounts. Comes with all the hardware. Just mounts from one screw at the bottom, so that'll make it real easy to build a nice bracket. So now I'll mark all this stuff out, head to the shop, cut this thing out. Alright, so I'm at the shop. I'm going to turn on this iron worker. Man, I'm loving this machine. I've been using this so much since I bought it. No buyer's remorse in this thing. So I got everything marked out. These are all my cuts. So first thing I'll do, I'll use this part for cutting the angle iron, cut out the pieces, then I'm going to notch them out. So now I just have to drill the holes in the bracket. Normally for something like this I would use my Bridgeport, but it's not wired up yet because I started moving all my equipment from my other shop into this one. I built in a fabrication shop here, so I brought my Bridgeport, my old lathe. This lathe is pretty cool. When I brought this from my other shop and I wired it up here, I pulled apart the electrical box and it was dated 1946. This thing still works perfect since 1946. That tells you something about how they used to make machines back then. So anyway, normally what I would do, I'd put a drill chuck in this. So I'll mark my holes, I'd put it in the drill right here. I take this end mill out, put a drill chuck, tighten that up, and it'd drill it very precise. I could use my drill press right here. And yes, I can already hear it in the comment section. I'm leaving my machines messy. There's metal chips all over the place. But I had a crazy busy week, so I didn't get time to clean them. Anyway, so I don't have a vise mounted on these yet, so I can't really use this because otherwise I have to hold the pieces. So I'll probably just go back home now, measure them up with my vise, use a hand drill. But before I go, I'll show you a little bit of what I did to the truck this week. So far, not much. I started getting the Lexia cut out. You can see the Lexia pieces up there. Still got to do the front. I got a couple 4x8 sheets of Lexia right there. Ignition's all set, ready to go. I got the magneto in, wires made up, magneto box done. Fuel system, I was hoping to get the fuel system done this week. I wasn't able to. There's a few more parts I need to get. It's my fault. I didn't order enough. I had to pull the transmission back out, switch the flex plate, which I got that done. So a few more parts, this thing will be ready to go. So I'm going to head back home now, get those holes drilled out, and get that steering setup mounted. Alright, so now I got these pieces made up, which are the same as this right here. This is what bolts to the differential housing. Same thing, only it's got the little wings right here to where I can drill a hole to mount these servo mounts to. So instead of gluing on like that, I'll be able to bolt a servo to it. I think it's a much better setup. So now the only thing I have to do, now I have to put this bolt pattern in right here. So what I'm going to do for that is, let me get this out of the way, I'm going to make a template right here. So I'm just going to trace this, mark these two holes, cut it out. So this way I have a drill guide for this. Okay, so I got the RPM servo mounts mounted to the servo. I got the holes drilled in the bracket. Same thing on the back side. But if you look, I actually made a mistake and had to re-drill the holes because I drilled them backwards. So it's all good because it's just a prototype bracket. So now I just got to mount that right there. Put on the axle, this thing will be good to go. So now this part's all mounted up, servo's mounted to the bracket. Now the axle, just take your motor, then like so, and the bracket sits like that. So taking a look, you got the motor mounted in, servos mounted in. So now let's put a servo saver right here. Here's the servo horn. Right here I can put the factory Clod style. So now if you take a look, this and this are the same setup, except for that one has a servo that glues to the mount, where that one screws to the mount, so it bolts in. It's a lot more sturdy. And I could either run a servo horn and the factory servo saver, or a servo saver here and an aluminum setup like that, which these are still available. And that allowed me to run the factory bumper. And honestly, I also like the factory steering linkage that goes from here to here, like on a factory Clod. Like this. So even though this can bend, I'd rather bend these steel links than break apart, because you could easily just bend it back. So anyway, that's about it for now. So take care. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll have more Clodbuster builds coming. See you next time.